Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Jamie Plays. Today I have some great news for you, and that is Star Trek New Horizons is getting another update. So in comparison to more recent updates, this will be a smaller update, but it is no less welcome, let me tell you. And yeah, it looks like it's going to have a lot of interesting features, so let's dive right in. So this update is focusing on 3.8.4, and because of that, of course, in our patch notes we have a lot of balance changes and vanilla fixes that have been added to Star Trek New Horizons. There have been a lot of localization updates, translations and fixes have been added due to the 3.8.4 update, and of course the GUI changes and fixes have also been added into Star Trek New Horizons. Now moving on to the Star Trek New Horizons update and contents, there are two large areas that have been worked on. One is the setup and the setup conditions, and the other is battle balances. So for setup, the starting conditions have been updated, which allows us to set the empires we want on a map. So we can either select all of them, or we can add empires individually. Before, we could only select by percentages. You could say you wanted 50% of miners. Now you could say you want all of them or none of them, or specifically pick which ones you would like. However, please note that the major empires, such as, for example, the United Federation of Planets, or really people like United Earth and the Vulcans, they will always be included, and this is due to events that need them. So they will always be. The mirror map has also been updated to use these new game setup methods, so definitely if you would like to play on the mirror universe maps, you can absolutely do that with this new setup condition. Continuing on, the new game setup time has also been improved, so for those people who are saying, oh, it's taking me 20 minutes to start a new game, that should definitely be improved after this update, and you should see those changes immediately. Furthermore, security heroes can now take the Starfleet Intel Counselor role. That was a role that people were having a lot of problems with. Moving on, Chekhov's backstory has also been added, so a little bit of content there. And the Borg traits have also been updated with a number of new effects from 3.8, so bringing Star Trek New Horizons more in line with vanilla Stellaris. Moving on, Intel has been balanced. Specifically things like ships' positions and cloaked vessels have been edited and changed. So you can now only see those for a target empire when your intel level is at the very highest levels, or if you have an alliance with it. Also for setup, solar panels and Keslock panels have also been added as generator modules to your starbase to give them extra power. So that will be interesting. See what we can do with that. And finally, if you're playing as United Federation of Planets, you can now take control of member world starbases using the Federation Council mechanic, and this is done via Starbase 1. Moving on to battle balances, this is definitely a work in progress area, so we will see more battle balances in the next several updates, if not even further into the future. And these include things like minimum ranges, firing arcs. We saw some of these added into the last patch. In this patch, the long-range weapons have now been given a set firing arc, as well as minimum ranges, so if a ship gets too close, you won't be able to fire that weapon at that ship. Fighter craft now also have engagement ranges as well, so they will only engage within a certain range. For long-range torpedoes, those can now be intercepted by point defense weapons. So for example, if you have a fleet with some ships that are specialized in point defense, those point defense modules will now try to intercept long-range torpedoes that have been fired. And the fleet tactical modules, which were added in the last update, there's been a lot of community feedback, and the devs have implemented some improvements there as well. There have also been some updates to the maps, specifically the random maps, which now it will also randomly include primitives. In the past, they weren't doing that correctly. Also, all empires on random maps will now start with equal bonuses. In the past, they were starting with the bonuses that were more suited towards the mirror universe and or the prime universe maps. So random maps will now make everyone equal. There's also been some Season 2 content added from Strange New Worlds that has been added to the larger map. So if you play on the smaller maps, there's nothing there yet, but on the larger maps you will see some of that content. And finally, the Omicron Theta system position has also been moved on the lore maps to better align with canon information. For the largest section of the patch notes, we of course have all of the various fixes that have been added, and there are quite a wide range of fixes. These include things like removing issues where the Borg leader traits started to appear on non-Borg leaders, to things like the trait needed to captain the Defiant in the Mirror Universe that has also been fixed. There were some UI bugs, those have been squashed. Also, one of the weirder bugs, the texture of the planet Jupiter was having random shadows, the bottom half was almost completely black. That has now been smoothed and worked on, so it should not look nearly as weird as it has been. The clouds, however, are still a work in progress, so we will see an update probably later on as well to Jupiter again. A number of projects that were broken because of previous updates or updates to Stellaris have also been fixed and also reworked as part of the vanilla trait changes. So these include things like the V'ger probe story event, as well as projects that were just completely broken. On the Borg side, we have some traits that have been updated to reflect the changes that happened in the base game Stellaris with the 3.8 update. Those traits have now been brought into alignment. And the Borg Council position, you used to be able to ignore those and not use them. Now they are required, so you will need to put in drone leaders for those positions. On the fighting side, there have been a number of fixes with star bases, including the firing rate balance. Again, this is one that will probably every update that comes out, there will be little tweaks and things, but we'll have to wait for future updates to see exactly what happens. For the Krenim, there was a bug with the super weapon that's now been fixed, and also the Krenim's patrol frigates, I believe, were too large. Those have now been scaled down, they've been resized. For the Klingons, if you tried to retire the Katinga, you would get a bug that's been squashed, and the Burrell evasion stats, that's been a kind of consistent problem in recent memory, and they were often the evasion stats were often going above 100%, meaning that you could then evade absolutely everything that was thrown at you, and yet make you way too powerful, especially as a simple Burrell class. So those have been lowered to avoid that happening again. Finally, for fixes, the occupation debug will now correctly time out after 10 years. So there was some weird timing going on there, that's been fixed. Some 2D issues have also been fixed. If you remember in the last update, 2D was the focus of that update, so 2D art, 2D styling, things like that, which introduced a couple of bugs. Those have been improved, and a number of the Mirror Universe starting events have also been improved and fixed as well, so they should now work correctly. We also have a small other section for this update. One of those is for the events. Sela has been added as a Romulan hero. This is in reference to future Yesterday's Enterprise, which we saw in Star Trek The Next Generation. That content is on the way, so yeah, another sneak peek within a sneak peek, if you will. And finally, the Elorian hair has also been updated, so it should look more like what we're expecting. So that is the update that is going to come out this weekend, so that could be any time between Friday and Monday, just depends on when the devs have the time to do the update and when they feel confident that it's ready to release. But it should be this weekend, so yeah. As a player, I'm always hoping for the sooner the better, but within the next 72 hours or so, we should have an update, unless something goes terribly wrong in the meantime. So yeah, I hope you have kind of enjoyed these patch notes. If you have, definitely please remember to like and subscribe. If you do, you'll see more Stellaris, Star Trek New Horizons content, as well as things like patch notes and sneak peeks of updates for the game. So yeah, I hope to see you next time for another episode of Jamie Plays. Bye for now.